Hey folks, welcome to the program tonight. We are going to talk about a 1937 or 38, I don't know which, but one of the two, Supertone. And you may go, well, how do you know it's 37 or 38? Two things. First of all, this is a round-holed archtop. It may look like a flat top on the video, but it's not. It's actually an archtop. Well, let me rephrase that. It's a half archtop, okay? So let me tell you what happened. So I bought this from a guy named, calls himself Lawman Mike. You can find him on Reverb. And he gave me the straight skinny on the whole guitar, everything except one thing. And I'll tell you what that one thing is that he didn't tell me. But it has the original Bakelite tuners on it. The original tuners with the Bakelite keys on them, I guess. And you can tell it's in very, very good shape. He was able to clean it up really well. You can see the neck is a hard V. I think you can see that. It's a pretty hard V neck. And it's fat and chunky. I think I've talked about this in another video where they used poplar wood on the neck. And they fattened them way up in the 30s, 40s, 50s in that time frame because they didn't put any steel. There was no steel in the neck. And they didn't want the necks to move. And poplar, while it's a hardwood, is a softer hardwood. So they kind of, my opinion is they built this neck up good and chunky because they didn't want it moving. And so I guess they figured the thicker it was, the less chance there was of moving. I think they may have been on something here. Anyway, the guitar itself is birch back and sides and top. And I think it's solid. Best I can tell, it's solid birch. It's a beautiful, beautiful sounding guitar. I think I put a few clips in of just playing a couple of things just for the sake of time. But you see the checkered fretboard. That wasn't unique to 1937 and 38. What was unique was the checkered fretboard in conjunction with a round-holed archtop. You see round-holed archtops, but they're a little more rare than F-holes, I think. Yeah, probably a little more rare. I don't know that for a fact, but I think it is. I see many more archtop F-hole guitars than I do round holes, okay? And by F-holes, I just mean it's got the little music F there on the top and the bottom. And yeah, I need to clean this guitar. It's kind of dusty. The only thing I had done to the guitar was when I got it, this is supposed to be an archtop, and I don't think you can tell it from looking at it, but it's arched to right here, and then it starts sinking down to the sound hole. And the reason I think that happened was because this bridge was originally, the original bridge somewhere along the way became, who knows, and they replaced it with a metal bridge. It was pretty chunky and heavy. And they located that bridge in a spot right about here instead of where it's at now. And there's no support under there for that. So take the combination of, number one, there's no support up here for that. The other thing is now you got this big bulky metal bridge on there, which is weight and heavy. And they successfully sunk the arch on this guitar. That he did not tell me. So when I got the guitar, I thought it looked kind of strange. So I took it to Kelly Barber over at Action Sound in Hawkins, Texas. I know him very well. He's a super nice guy. Folks, if you ever get to East Texas and you go to Hawkins, go to downtown Hawkins. It's not hard to find. Okay? There's one signal light in the town. And it's right there at Highway 80. And I can't think of the cross county road there. But you look off to the north, and that's downtown right there on the other side of the signal light. And look for Action Sound. And it's not hard to find. It's a whole row. He owns nearly all of downtown down there. So, but he's got a massive guitar shop down there. And he is one heck of a luthier. And he's well known in the business. As a matter of fact, it's through Kelly. I think I've mentioned this before, that I met Doyle Dykes. And because Kelly's really close friends with him. I'm not. I know him. I've met him. But I'm not. We're not close, okay? Kelly's close to him. And they're pretty good friends. And he's a good guy. But so I took it to Kelly and I said, Kelly, look, I know this thing probably isn't worth $100, but I want it, and I want to keep it, and I want it playable. And look at this crazy bridge these people put on here. And he goes, yeah. And he said, did you notice the top? And I said, yeah, I noticed it. But he said, yeah, did you notice how bad it is? And I said, well, I think I did, but I'm not sure. So he put it up sideways, and we really got a chance to look at it close, kind of under the microscope. And you could tell this top had sank worse than I thought it had. At first glance, you don't really see it. But once you know it's there, you can see it every time. You know what I mean? So he said, well, let me have it for a couple of weeks and let me see what I can do. So he got a bridge put on it and built me a saddle, okay, a bone saddle, and he really did a phenomenal job on this saddle. I don't know, folks, but it almost looks, if it wasn't for the fact that bone's in there, if that had been wood, you wouldn't probably know that wasn't an original bridge. It's an adjustable bridge, but I haven't adjusted it because the intonation's good on it. You heard in the tune. It's not. You have to play it for a little bit and kind of get used to it. It's not hard to play. It's just different. You got this huge fat neck, and of course you've got this kind of a bridge on it, and that's a little different when you play and do any real fingerstyle or anything, especially with fingerstyle. It's just a different feel to it. And so it takes a little getting used to. I think that's the original tailpiece on it. Pretty sure it is. I think he told me it was. It's what he didn't tell me that bothered me, okay? But the tailpiece, I believe, is original on it. So it's really a nice, kind of what you'd see on a lot of the old Harmonies and Stellas and, K's and that kind of thing. I guess you'd see that kind of a coloring on the back. And I've seen some old Harmonies, especially I think the Monterey looks a little bit like that, but I think the Monterey may be birch, that 50s model Monterey Harmony. I don't know. I'd have to go look at that. But anyway, it's a nice little guitar. I'm going to put a picture up here, right here. There we go. Of the original ad for this guitar, which is the only way you can date it. Because if you look in the sound hole, and I don't know if you can see that sound hole in there very good or not. I'm going to hold it right there. See if you can see that. It just says Supertone, fine quality instruments or something like that. But these are the kind of guitars, folks, that, a lot of people could afford. Well, more people could afford than they can afford some higher end guitar back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And so these guitars got bought quite a bit, especially for kids and that kind of thing. And, of course, they look great in the catalog picture, right? And they look great in person. I like them. What's a guitar worth? Whatever you're willing to pay for it. I mean, in the end, that's really the truth. What is this guitar probably worth? I would say probably around, if you looked at collectability and that kind of thing, the collectability on this one is shot. It's shot because I had to replace, there was no original bridge on it. That kills the collectability. The other thing that kills it is this sunken arch on it, okay? Because it probably could have put period bridge and saddle on here. But I don't really care so much about the collectability piece of it. I buy these old guitars because of how they sound. And I think they feel great in your hands, There you go. It's got great sustain, sounds great. Yeah, the arch is ruined in it. But that just kind of makes it play a little bit more like a flat top, in my opinion, I guess. So it'll hang with me. At one time I was going to sell it. I changed my mind. And I decided I'm going to keep it because it has a beautiful tone, especially when you do D tuning on it, or G or E or whatever you wanted to do on it. It plays good in standard tune too. I've had it in standard tune and played it for quite a while, but I like it. If you can find these old guitars and they're in reasonable shape, this one doesn't have any cracks on it. Never had any cracks on it. There's scratches and scars on it, but there's absolutely zero cracks. And the old boy that up there that sold it to me, I told you who it was a minute ago, he actually did a full neck reset on this. So it'll last another 60, 70 years. Folks, I'm 64 years old. I'm not expecting to be around in 60 years, so it'll last me the rest of my life. I like it. I like the way it plays. I like the way it sounds. These old catalog guitars, I have said it before in every video I've done on these older instruments like this, they're gold. If you can get them redone, the sounds out of these woods are incredible. And folks, you can get the intonation right and they'll play as good as any Gibson or Martin. Okay? My Baxendales, I wouldn't trade those guitars for, I wouldn't trade them for any other guitar. There is no other guitar out there I would trade those guitars for. I've already got 60, 70-year-old wood on those guitars. They have been gone through with a fine-tooth comb. Scott rebraced every one of them. The two Baxendales I have, Brian up in Maine, Brian McFarlane. Yes. That old Harmony that I bought from him, fantastic. Chris, who I can never remember his last name, starts with a V, up in Illinois, where I bought this 1956 to 59, I think, Silvertone, the 319 shape, but it's actually an H something or another. I can't remember what it is exactly. But it's the same body style as the two Baxendales that I have, the Silvertone and the Stella. It's that OM body style. And folks, they've got aged wood on them. If you got the neck reset on them, they'll last you forever. And once the neck reset gets done, if it was done correctly, the intonation is going to be beautiful on them, and they're going to fret well and play well. You got old wood. That's all I expect out of any guitar. I just want it to play well and sound good. And this guitar plays well and sounds good. It's great. The body style is, that's not really a slope shoulder. It's more of a square shoulder kind of arched top, right? A little more like you would see on a Hummingbird, something like that, or a Martin D28, something like that, D18 maybe. Or D16. I think Martin made some D16s. I've got a friend of mine that has one that Martin built for Guitar Center, a D16E, and it's a rosewood backing sides with a Sitka spruce top, and I played it last week in Charlotte. He lives near Charlotte, and we were up there on business, and he brought it to the hotel, and I sat down and played it for a little bit, and I was blown away. Because normally when you get these manufacturers that make a guitar for Guitar Center or Sweetwater or something like that, my experience has been they don't sound very good. That Martin D16E that he had, that was built for Guitar Center, oh my goodness, that thing played amazing and sounded beautiful. Keep in mind, this birch is about 80 years old, 37, right? So if we went with let's just say 1938, so 70 years, 80 years, 82, 3, 4 years now, whatever that is. I'm not going to do the math in my head right now, but over 80 years old, this guitar, coming up on 90, and the woods are fantastic on it. And I think it's got a great sound to it. Just want to do a video, show you a little bit about what it sounded like, talk a few minutes about this guitar, because it is kind of a special guitar. Value, yeah, it's valuable to me, so I'm going to hang on to it. But anyway, I appreciate you joining. Do you ever own one of these Supertones? You ever seen one? I like them. Now, let me know what you think in the comments if you want to. Folks, you'll notice I don't ask people to subscribe. I don't tell them to like the videos. I don't do any of that. I figure if you're watching YouTube and you've got an account on YouTube and you can comment on videos, you know what you can do, right? I'm not going to tell you that. I've never mentioned this in the video before. I'm not going to mention it now. other than to say, in case you're wondering why I don't say those things in videos, because just about everybody does. That's why. If you want to subscribe. I'd love to have you, and everybody here would love to have you that's part of this group, part of this channel. And if you like the videos, well, you know how you can show that. But it's not a requirement. I love seeing you, and I'm glad you're here. And if you got anything you want to say, well, you can drop it in the comments. I'll always respond to you. Take care of your friends. Take care of your family. God bless. We'll see you next time.